4 houses, 4 documented cases, 4 sets of witnesses who saw things inside ordinary walls that they spent the rest of their lives trying to explain. None of these houses look like what you would expect. That is the point. The most terrifying places in the world look exactly like everywhere else, until you go inside. On the night of November 13th, 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr. walked through this house while his family slept. He went room by room. He killed 6 people: his parents, his brothers, his sisters. All of them found face down in their beds. Not one of them had woken up. Not one of them had moved. When police asked DeFeo why he did it, he said the house made him do it, that voices inside the walls told him to. 13 months later, a new family moved in. They lasted 28 days. What happened inside 112 Ocean Avenue has never been fully explained. George and Kathy Lutz bought 112 Ocean Avenue in December 1975. They knew about the murders. The estate agent told them. They bought it anyway because it was a beautiful house at a price they could afford, and they had 3 children, and they needed the space. They moved in on December 18, 1975. George Lutz later said the house felt cold from the first day. Not physically cold, though that would come later, but something less definable. A quality to the air, a weight to the rooms. The first documented incident occurred within the first week. George began waking at 3:15 every morning, without an alarm, without any reason. 3:15 precisely. He would lie awake for hours in the cold, dark house, and he would not know why. He found out later that 3:15 was the approximate time the DeFeo murders had occurred the year before, in the same rooms, in the same beds. Within days, the activity escalated. A room above the garage that the family called the Red Room, a small enclosed space painted red that had not been part of the original house plans and that their dog would not enter, became the center of something the family could not name. The dog would sit outside it, trembling. Kathy Lutz reported being thrown from her bed, levitated. She reported seeing a figure at the window, the face of a demonic pig with glowing red eyes, that her daughter had already reported seeing and had named Jody. Green slime oozed from the walls in one of the hallways. Not water damage, not mold, green, thick, unexplained. Crucifixes in the house were found twisted and inverted. A priest who visited to bless the house reported hearing a voice telling him to get out. He developed inexplicable blisters on his hands. George Lutz stopped showering, stopped changing his clothes. He sat by the fireplace for hours, doing nothing. Kathy described watching her husband change, not emotionally, physically, his face changing, becoming something she did not recognize. On January 14, 1976, 28 days after moving in, the Lutz family left 112 Ocean Avenue in the middle of the night. They took nothing. They never went back. The case has been disputed for decades. Skeptics argue the Lutz family fabricated the story for profit. DeFeo's attorney claimed his client and the Lutzes invented the haunting together in a 5-hour meeting. The Lutzes denied this until their deaths. What is not disputed is this: 6 people died in that house on November 13, 1974. The DeFeo murders are documented fact. The victims were found face down. Not one of them woke up. Not one of them fought back. 6 people asleep in a house, while someone moved through it, room by room, and not one of them made a sound. Whether the house is haunted is a matter of belief. What happened inside it in 1974 is not. On the night of June 9th, 1912, the Moore family went to bed after a church social. Josiah and Sarah Moore. Their 4 children, Herman, Catherine, Arthur, and Paul, and 2 girls staying the night, Ina and Lena Stillinger, aged 8 and 11. 8 people went to sleep in that house. In the morning, a neighbor came to tend to the animals and found the door unlocked. All 8 of them were dead, bludgeoned in their beds with an axe, every mirror in the house covered with clothing, every window sealed, a slab of bacon left in the kitchen, a bowl of bloody water beside it. The killer was never found. The house still stands, exactly as it was in 1912. People still sleep in it. The town of Villisca in 1912 had approximately 2,000 residents. Everyone knew everyone. The Moore family were respected, ordinary, well-liked. Josiah ran a successful farm implement business. Their children went to the local school. On the evening of June 9th, the whole family attended a special Children's Day service at the Presbyterian Church. They brought home 2 friends of their daughter Catherine, the Stillinger sisters, for a sleepover. By midnight, all 8 of them were asleep. The investigation that followed was one of the most contaminated crime scenes in American history. When word spread the following morning, hundreds of Villisca residents arrived at the house before it could be secured. They walked through the rooms. They touched the walls. They moved things without understanding. They were destroying evidence. By the time the National Guard arrived at noon, the crime scene had been irreparably compromised. What investigators did establish was this. The killer had used Josiah Moore's own axe. They had moved through the house in complete darkness, the windows sealed, the curtains drawn, navigating by memory or touch. They had entered the master bedroom first. Josiah Moore received more blows than any other victim. His face had been cut so many times that his eyes were missing. Then the killer moved to the children's rooms. Herman, Catherine, Arthur, Paul, each one bludgeoned while they slept. Then downstairs to the guest room where the Stillinger girls lay, Ina and Lena, 8 and 11 years old. None of them woke up. The killer moved through that house in the dark for hours, and not one of 8 people woke up. Multiple suspects were investigated over the following years. A traveling minister named Reverend George Kelly, who had been at the Children's Day service and left Villisca on the first train the following morning. A local businessman with a grudge against Josiah Moore. A traveling serial killer believed responsible for similar murders across the Midwest between 1911 and 1912. 2 separate trials were held. Nobody was ever convicted. The case remains unsolved. Over a century later, the paranormal history of the house developed decades after the murders. Visitors today report cold spots in the children's rooms, unexplained voices, objects moving. Paranormal investigators from around the world visit the house, which is now open for tours and overnight stays. Whether the spirits of 8 people who died in that house in 1912 remain inside it is a question nobody can answer. What can be answered is the detail that investigators found most disturbing. Not the axe, not the covered mirrors, not the bacon or the bloody water. The detail that disturbed investigators most was the ceiling above the beds. In every room. In the ceiling directly above where each victim lay. Axe marks. The killer had stood over each sleeping person and practiced their swing on the ceiling above them before bringing it down. On the evening of August 30th, 1977, Peggy Hodgson, a single mother of 4, called the police to her home at 284 Green Street in Enfield. She told them the furniture was moving by itself. The responding officer witnessed a chair move across the floor with nobody touching it. He signed a written statement confirming what he saw. Over the next 12 months, 230 incidents were recorded in that house, witnessed by police officers, journalists, neighbors, investigators, and researchers. And then there was the voice. Coming from 11-year-old Janet Hodgson. A voice that was not hers, a voice that knew things it should not have known. Peggy Hodgson was not the kind of person who believed in ghosts. She was a practical woman raising 4 children alone on a council estate in North London in 1977. She had enough real problems without inventing supernatural ones. When the activity began, she called the police because she did not know who else to call. The responding officer, Constable Carolyn Heaps, witnessed a chair move across the kitchen floor. Not slide. Move. Against the direction of any detectable force. She attempted to replicate it and could not. She signed a written statement. The Society for Psychical Research sent investigators Guy Lyon Playfair and Morris Gross to the house. They would remain involved for over a year. Their documentation of what occurred at 284 Green Street remains the most comprehensive record of alleged poltergeist activity in British history. Recorded incidents included furniture moving without physical contact, objects flying across rooms, inexplicable knocking on walls, water appearing on surfaces with no source, and on multiple occasions Janet Hodgson and her sister Margaret being levitated from their beds while researchers watched. Playfair and Gross recorded over 200 hours of audio at the property. A deep, guttural voice coming from Janet, then 11 years old. That was not her voice. Medical examination confirmed the voice was being produced by her false vocal cords, a mechanism that causes pain and cannot be sustained deliberately for more than a few seconds. The voice continued for hours. The voice identified itself as Bill. It said it had lived in the house. It described dying in a chair in the corner of the downstairs room. A hemorrhage, it said, going blind before it died. Researchers traced a previous occupant of 284 Green Street, a man named Bill Wilkins, who had died in the house, in a chair, of a brain hemorrhage. He had gone blind before he died. Bill Wilkins had never been mentioned to Janet Hodgson. The Hodgson family did not know his name. The voice knew it. The case attracted enormous attention. The Daily Mirror sent journalists and photographers. Multiple photographs were taken of Janet apparently levitating. Skeptics argued the girls were faking, jumping from their beds. Investigators who were present said the levitations they witnessed could not have been jumps. The activity stopped in 1978 as abruptly as it had started. The Hodgson family continued to live in the house. Peggy Hodgson died there in 2003. Janet Hodgson, now in her 50s, has given multiple interviews about what happened in that house when she was 11. She has never wavered. She has never recanted. She has never profited significantly from the case. She says she did not fake it. She says she does not know what it was. She says the worst part was not the furniture moving, or the voice, or the levitation. The worst part was that whatever was in that house knew them, knew their names, knew their routines, made itself at home in the house where her family lived, like something that had always been there, waiting for them to arrive. In August 1971, Maria Gomez Camara noticed a stain on her kitchen floor. It was forming itself into a face. Her husband and son destroyed it. They broke up the concrete and relaid it. A week later, the face came back. The mayor of Belmez ordered the floor dug up. Beneath it, they found human remains. Bones. Dating back centuries. The remains of people who had died and been buried under that floor long before the house was built. They removed the remains. They relaid the floor. The faces came back. Different faces. More faces. Across 30 years. Dozens of them. Scientists examined the floor repeatedly. No paint, no chemical treatment, no explanation. The faces are still there. The town of Belmez de la Moraleda sits in the Jaén province of southern Spain. In August 1971, it had a population of a few thousand people. Maria Gomez Camara had lived in her house on Calle Real for years without incident. The stain appeared without warning. A discoloration in the concrete floor of her kitchen that gradually resolved itself into the features of a human face. The expression of the face shifted as it formed, sometimes showing anguish, sometimes something harder to name. Maria was deeply unsettled. Her husband Miguel and their son destroyed the floor and relaid it. 1 week later, the face came back, in the same location, on the new concrete. The mayor of Belmez, alarmed by the growing attention the phenomenon was attracting, ordered the floor excavated. What workers found beneath the kitchen floor were human remains. Bones. Multiple individuals. Later analysis dated some of the remains to the 13th century. The property sat on what had been, centuries earlier, a burial site. The remains were removed, given proper burial. The floor was relaid completely. Fresh concrete, new surface, no trace of the original floor remaining. Within days, the faces returned. Not the same face, new faces, different expressions. Some looking upward, some with mouths open, some changing their expression over days and weeks as witnesses watched. Scientists and researchers from across Europe examined the Belmez floor over the following years. The analysis was consistent. No paint, no dye, no chemical treatment, no external application of any kind could be identified. The faces were forming in the concrete itself. The material of the floor was changing. The mechanism by which it was changing could not be established. Thermographic analysis showed the areas where faces appeared had different temperature signatures from the surrounding concrete. Electromagnetic readings in those areas were anomalous. No explanation for either finding was produced. Over 30 years between 1971 and the early 2000s, dozens of distinct faces appeared on the floor of that kitchen. Some faded, some were joined by others, some appeared to react to events in the house. Witnesses reported that when a family member was ill, a face on the floor would appear to change its expression. Maria Gomez Camara lived in that house until her death in 2004. She gave numerous interviews over 3 decades about what she had witnessed. She was consistent. She was calm. She was not a person seeking attention or profit. The faces brought tourists to Belmez, and the attention was frequently unwelcome. She said the faces did not frighten her after the initial shock. She came to think of them as the people who had been buried under her floor. People who simply wanted to be known, who had been there long before her house was built, and who had continued to be there after it was. The house is now a museum. The faces are still visible. Scientists still cannot explain them. The most recent analysis confirmed what every previous analysis had found. The faces are real. They are in the concrete. They are not applied from outside. How they got there has never been established. Four houses, 4 documented cases, hundreds of witnesses, decades of investigation. The Amityville house where 6 people died, face down without waking. The Villisca house where axe marks on the ceiling showed the killer practicing their swing above sleeping children. The Enfield house where a voice from an 11-year-old girl knew the name and manner of death of a man the family had never heard of. The Belmez house where faces formed in concrete above the bones of the centuries-old dead. None of these cases have been fully explained. All of them are documented. All of them happened in ordinary houses on ordinary streets. The house you are in right now was built on something, stood on something, has a history you may not know. The walls of an ordinary house are very thin.